These are the directions for the printmaking mandala project. It's going to be several steps. The first one being creating colored background, coming up with a design, turning that design into a stamp, and then rolling ink across this stamp and pressing it onto the paper 4 times. All right, so my first step is going to be to show you how to come up with a colored background. So our first step is going to be to get watercolors out and just cover the entire paper with any colors that you want. I'm not doing anything in particular. I'm just making sure that the entire thing is covered up. It doesn't have to be anything too special. I'm going to cover everything up. I'm going to do about 3 of these that are different. And the purpose of that is that you're probably going to mess one of these up. All right. The printmaking process is a little tricky. The first time you do it, it's going to be a learning process. So if you mess one up, I don't want you to have to completely start over. If you mess one up, you'll just grab a different one and keep going. So here is one of them that I'm working on. Here's another one that I have done. And I'm going to pause and go on to the next step. In the next step, you're going to come up with the actual design that's going to rotate and be printed 4 times around here. All right. So for this step, I'm going to give you a 4-inch square piece of paper. You're going to fold it diagonally. This is going to be the very center, and this is going to be the outside. And what you have to do now is start to draw a design in here. So I'm going to start drawing this design, and I'll be back when I'm done. Now that I've got my design drawn, I'm going to cut off part of it. You can cut off some of the edges. I'm going to cut off that part. I'm going to cut off that part. And I'm going to take it to a light table, and I'm going to trace my design onto the other side so that when I open it up, it'll have mirroring designs. I've taken my design, I traced it, so now it's on both halves of the paper. Next step is I'm going to cut out the edges and get rid of that part. Now that I have my design drawn and the edges are cut, I'm going to take a thin piece of styrofoam, place my design on top, and it's probably best for this part to use a pen. And I'm going to trace all of my lines, pressing pretty hard with the pen to make an indentation on my piece of styrofoam. You got to make sure that you don't move your design at all because it's going to mess things up. So pressing really hard here, I'm just tracing every line. If you use pen, it's going to make it a little bit easier to remember which lines you've gone over and which ones you haven't. And it should leave an indentation on here. And then you can go back and kind of press down on it when you're done. Now I've got my entire design traced onto this piece of styrofoam. What I would recommend is taking a pen, going back through and pressing on all of those lines just to make sure that they're all indented. So take some time, go through, trace it, press really hard and make sure that you're making a crease for each one of these. Now I've got my styrofoam stamp all creased. Next thing I'm going to do is take one of my dried watercolor papers and I'm going to fold it into 4 sections. It's going to help me line up my stamp on my paper. Fold in half this way. Fold in half this way. you need to, you can take a ruler and draw those lines out. But basically my stamp is going to go here, 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 and here. Now it's time to print my project. So I'm going to take some block printing ink, spread it on the bench hook. This is called a brayer or roller. And what I need to do is roll this out so it's one thin, even coat. Take my project, roll it across my project in one even coat. I should have a paper under this, but I don't. I will next time. Carefully pick this up. And I've got my lines marked. And I'm going to drop this right where I want it to be. Try not to squish it around. I'm going to press this down. Make sure that it gets pressed down everywhere, but not squished sideways. Otherwise, it's going to smear. And then peel it off and see what it looks like. All right, should look something like that. And then I'm going to repeat for all the other sides. I need to roll ink back across it. If I just try to stick it on the next one, it's gonna have a really blotchy look to it. So next side, line it up again. Try to get it all pressed down really well. I'm doing my best not to get ink all over my paper. There it is. I'm going to pause and come back when I'm completely finished. This is my final product. The ink washes off the stamp pretty easily. So after I did this one, I switched colors on my extra papers, and I did the other ones.